Namaskar and welcome to Sunset Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. In today's episode, we'll discuss and analyze the bilateral relations between India and Nepal and how are they moving ahead. And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with, we have with us in the studio Mr. Ranjit Ray. He is former ambassador of India to Nepal. Welcome, Ambassador Ray, to Sunset Television Studios. We're also joined by Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, foreign affairs expert, and Mr. C.K. Lal, a senior journalist and political analyst from Kathmandu, Nepal, is also joining us. Welcome, both of you gentlemen, as well to Sunset TV. Dr. Chaulia, since Mr. Lal mentioned those cooling off instances, and then of course, hiccups are always there in any relationship, specifically in a bilateral relation between two nations. So from that point of view, if we have to understand where do we stand, how are we moving ahead, and of course, there are a lot of mutual beneficial avenues for both India and Nepal.
The closer you are,
Mr. Lal,
the chances of misunderstanding. I'm sorry. Was that question directed to...
Well, that was for Dr. Chaulia, but you're most welcome to respond to it first, and then we can have Dr. Chaulia's reaction as well.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, Dr. Chaulia, I just interrupted. I thought it was directed at me. Whenever the relationship is so close and multifaceted, cultural, diplomatic, economic, geostrategic, so chances of misunderstanding also increase. We should not be kind of frightened by those misunderstandings, but make effort to normalize that, so that if there is a cooling, attempts have to be made to warm them up once again.
Okay. Dr. Chaulia, your response to that, and Mr. Lal has put it very beautifully here, that of course these are instances which will be there in almost all bilateral relations.
Sure. I mean, Vishal, the thing is, Prime Minister Modi going 5 times in the last 7.5 years to Nepal itself shows how much importance he has given to our small Himalayan neighbor. And I think he came in the very beginning understanding the strategic importance of Nepal as a buffer between us and China, and also the cultural linkages. See, whenever he goes, he makes it a point to reach out to the hearts and minds of Nepalese people, be it Pashupatinath or Janak Puri for the Hindus, and now he has gone to the Buddhist pilgrimage center and so I think Maya Devi. So what all this does is, I think both the Ramayana and the Buddhist circuit are embedded in the hearts and minds of people of both sides. Mm-hmm. So I think he has been able to really harness it in a very visible way, which earlier leaders were not doing. Okay. So the neglect of the past by India, I think the Nepalese elites especially used to resent it. But now there is no neglect, there's total attention. And that's a very important high-level signal. And like you said, it's also leading to a lot of new initiatives. The cultural linkages, the opening of this new Buddhist center, and also the educational exchanges, the new chairs that Indian Council for Cultural Relations is setting up in Nepal, in various universities. All these show that we are focusing on the intangible aspects also. Okay. It's not just a trade. I mean, hydroelectric power is there, of course, and we want to import hydroelectricity from Nepal, like the way we have been doing from Bhutan. We want to connect Bhutan and Nepal, landlocked countries, with Bangladesh in a virtuous circle, what we call the BBIN, Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal. So a lot of good things are happening. I think Bangladesh was the model really for connectivity and for mutual understanding. Now we are doing the same with Nepal, and this is really neighborhood first in action. And we have not just stuck to the rhetorical side of it. We are making sure that all the sensitive aspects are being dealt with on the side. But the main things which have always, the roti beti ka rishta, or as we used to call it, Nepal and India, we are making sure that those remain strong, because both strategically and culturally, Nepal and India are inseparable. And that's the message, I think, the bigger message that comes from Prime Minister's visit.
Let me bring in both Dr. Chaulia and Ambassador Ray here as well. Dr. Chaulia, I'll first bring you in. The aspirations from our neighbor in two aspects broadly. Economic aspects, wherein a bit more coordination, a lot more cooperation to ensure that Nepal also benefits economically. And from a geostrategic point of view also, it's really significant from India's angle.
Yeah, we have done, we have tried to maximize the potential economically. The integrated check posts that India has helped to build has been instrumental in raising the trade volumes. It's now close to $10 billion per annum. It's the second best in South Asia after India, Bangladesh. So this is this relationship is going up, and of course, 8 million Nepalese have open border and opportunities to earn a living in India. And I would say that apart from this, the potential is there for enabling manufacturing inside Nepal and for Indian investors to play a bigger role there, so that they can export more via the BBIN corridor and other means. Geopolitically, yes, I mean, a smaller country will always want to play off bigger players and try to extract. But I think that they do understand India's sensibilities and sensitivities with regard to Chinese expansionism and hegemony. And they will want to make sure that India's security interests are also protected. So I think it's a healthy relationship now. There was a time when there was a so-called unified leftist government that had a strong Chinese interference in it. And unfortunately, in Nepal, sometimes there is a so-called anti-India card that is raked up by people for pure domestic political football, to take pot shots at each other within the domestic political electoral arena in Nepal. But I think we are moving in a different direction, because Prime Minister Modi is touching every aspect of a Nepalese society through his outreach, and our policies are also more liberal now. In fact, Prime Minister Deoba mentioned that fertilizer, there was a severe shortage of fertilizer for farming in Nepal. The bulk of it is aimed at Nepal and Bhutan. Earlier Afghanistan was the recipient, now it's no longer. So our ODA, as we call it, Overseas Development Assistance, Nepal is one of the topmost recipients historically and will remain so. So I think it's not a dependent relationship. We do respect small countries. Prime Minister has made a point to respect all small countries, and we are not at all playing any big brother role. Rather, what we're trying to do is to bring them into a collective formation which will be mutually beneficial and create those webs of connectivity. And I think ultimately that will solve our geopolitical dilemma, because people of Nepal realize who their true allies and true friends are once they look up north and once they look down south.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Ray, Mr. C.K. Lal, and Dr. Sreeram Chaulia as well, for sharing your views and insight with us.